And welcome to the Spoiler Kings. We're here again, talk about Moon Knight and Halo again, but this time Tank looks different, doesn't he? No, Will came in to stand in for Tank this week. I really appreciate him doing all this extra work for us. But thanks for coming in, Will.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've been meaning to join you guys and talk about some Halo. I've been wanting to join since Fresh Prince. It just schedule's crazy, and luckily I was able to set aside a little bit of time. So happy to be here, man.
Uh, we always love having you here because it gives us a better perspective of instead of two guys agreeing all the damn time. uh, with that said, we're going to really focus on Moon Knight because it's episode 5 now. So I really want to kind of dive into that and dive into the series as a whole of what we're going to have because we only have 6 episodes. Um, so I kind of want to talk about that, and then we'll get into Halo, which was a really interesting episode in itself too. A little later. Um, what we got here. All right. Okay. So first thing, kind of going to the Moon Knight. Episode 5 was crazy. I'm just gonna say that off the top. So my first really thoughts were, what the hell is going on? So we already know we're in the psych ward of the hospital, and
Mhm.
we already know Steve is there. We know Mark's there, and we are learning a lot about their origin story, about their family, and they get they come back to the story, and they're on the boat traveling to basically to Osiris to get weighed for their lives to get weighed. Decide if they're going to go into the sands or they're going to be able to go in the reeds and basically heaven or hell. That's basically what's going on.
Yep.
Tyrowet, the hippopotamus, basically, she's a god. She's the one that takes where we travelers across the sand dunes. Uh, and that's what they're doing. They're traveling. That's why you heard in episode 4 the ship rocking back and forth. This was something else because so now we're going on this voyage and all this stuff is going on and I am dropping frames. I don't know what's going on.
You're good,
uh,
man.
yeah. But it's a lot of stuff going on, and right now, Mark and Steven have to really share with each other all their lies, their things that they've been hiding from each other. They have to share and become one, to know the same things, to really become
Mhm.
one person. And that's troubling because as we see about Mark, he has a lot of secrets. And the first secret that we start seeing is he got his little brother killed.
Yeah, nuts, bro.
So, I mean, even the idea of taking them to the cave and them and the water rate rising that fast and his little brother drowning was just that would be enough to spin someone's personality in itself.
hmm
So,
when I
uh,
seen that, he had this look, right? Little Mark. He had this look where it almost looked intentional, and it was like a weird thing because there's times when even my son, right? My son's what, he's like 6 years old, and he's almost a saint, almost. But there's times when he does do bad things, he'll have this face like he's intentionally trying to be bad, and it's hard to believe, right? It's hard to believe that kids can do like the worst things, right?
yeah.
Especially killing somebody. Like I don't think that was his intent, but I keep going back and forth in my own head, like, did he mean to do that? He looked
Mm-hmm.
like he sad at the whole funeral and whatnot, and he looked guilty, right? It looked like, not guilty, but he looked, what's the word I'm looking for, like remorseful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first thing that popped into my head. Do you think he did it on purpose?
No, I think he was just a little kid, but I thought that he was looking introspectively like he blamed himself. So it's like an adult looking back, knowing what happened, you blaming yourself immediately. So and
Okay.
and even looking back now at it, it's like that makes sense because his mom was blaming him me too.
Right.
It turned out that it wasn't just that huge trauma; it was also the fact that his mom was going crazy and beating him also, and his dad wasn't there to stop him or stop her from for doing those things. So it
Right.
turns out this sickness that he has is hereditary.
Oh, hereditary. How so? Would
I think his mother had a different personality problem.
oh now that you mention that, before the death, right? She
Mm-hmm.
did look so lively, so vibrant. Her whole which great acting job by the person that plays the mother.
Mm-hmm.
She looked like a completely different person and had like a
Yep.
different personality. I didn't even pick up on that. Now that you say that, and
Mm-hmm.
then
I think the trauma
after
in her life changed that too.
mm, that's deep.
So I don't think that's something that just is Mark and Steven's fault or Mark's fault for creating Steven. So that's what really happened. Mark created Steven. I don't think it's his fault. I think it's more that it was hereditary and it was going to happen anyway. A serious stressful situation caused it. So um,
Yeah.
that was the biggest thing. What we got here? So I see Derp are talking about my mic. I got a new mic. I'm trying to get it all going, but obviously I got it done all together yet. So and I had to change locations because usually I'm in the basement, but I had to go upstairs because I had a sick wife. So I had to do what I had to do, try to make it go work out.
We understand. Yeah, Mike is having some issues, but it's okay. Bear with us. I'm sure if you really can't understand, I guess you could go on
Let
YouTube
me know.
and check out the captions that are generated on there. But for the most part, um, we'll be back 100% next week. Just stay with us for the ride as we talk a little bit about Moon Knight and Halo.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for the feedback for sure. Derpy Gaming and Tank.
So regardless, we'll keep on going.
Mhm.
In the episode, so now Steven now knows some of the trauma that Mark's been through, and it's a lot of trauma. I mean, he already knew, about what's going on with him killing his wife's father. So that was one thing. So, but
Yeah.
now, and it was almost like it was just like kind of brushed aside because like we already know this is what happened. I didn't mean to. I tried to save everybody. I wasn't able to. I was basically dying in the temple in the pyramid, and Kanshu took advantage of it. Either you die here or you become my avatar, and that was tough.
Yeah.
That was tough to even deal with. I mean, what do you do in that situation? So it seems like Kanshu knew what was going on, and he took
Mm,
advantage of that situation. And know he was a mercenary. He could take advantage of that life. He will be able to do certain things, and made him a champion. So
right.
that in itself is all interesting. And then Mark felt a certain way about that, and Steven told him, "No, Conchu did this. He
Mm,
set you up."
to
So
do
I
all
thought
this
that was
killing.
interesting too, because that's what
So,
I think. That's what's happening is Mark sees himself as a killer, and Steven's starting to show him that you're not just a killer. You're more. It's more to the story.
do you think Kanshu has an agenda besides trying to stop Harrow and whatnot? Because I'm sure Kanshu, he's been aware about Harrow's agenda previously, right?
Yeah.
So, do
Well,
you think
Harold.
Kanshu has bad intentions?
Yeah, remember Conchu and Harold. Harold was Conchu's avatar first.
Oh, he was. That's right.
So he knows
Okay.
everything about both. They know everything about each other.
Mm,
I mean, it's just the evil one who will judge you before you even do it. So how you
Yeah.
judge someone before they commit a crime? It's that whole thing again. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I think Kanshu is not necessarily good or bad, but he has his own agenda, and that's what he's really focused on.
Now you mentioned I'm sure you guys have talked about this on a previous show, but you mentioned about Harrow, how he kills you before you've done a crime, right? Or been
Mm-hmm.
down a bad road. Now, to me, and I'm sure most people, that hits you like, damn, that's bogus. Like they haven't even done it yet. Why not give them a chance? And that thought also kind of piggybacks off the idea, this being the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? What
Mm-hmm.
about alternate timelines? What if, you have the ability to change the timeline and not kill them, like, because you have that option too. Don't kill them. Give them a chance to do good before they even do bad. I wonder if that kind of theory and that kind of idea with the MCU is gonna play a part in Moon Knight. They haven't really shown it too much or even talked about it, but that's something that goes through my head, at least.
Mm-hmm. Which is very interesting because what my biggest problem with the whole show is there's only one episode left, and they have really set up these grand things, grand thoughts, grand ideas for a character arc that's not going to be able to be finished, and we don't even know if the lead actor will ever return. So I mean, it's just you've done so much. What are you going to do? I mean, we don't even know what's going to happen with our we heard about the third Jacob Lockley, the third personality. Is he going to even be used?
Ooh.
Are we
See,
going to have
now
any of this stuff?
you mentioned what was the name on that third personality?
Jake Lockley. He's actually the
Jake
guy in
Watley.
most of the comics. He's the guy who finances all the stuff. He pays for all of
Finance.
it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So to give you and I guess the viewers a little bit insight, a lot about the comics. You have a very extensive knowledge about Marvel in general, and I thank you for that. I myself, I have a nice big collection of Marvel comics, but that was passed down to me by my older brother. So I haven't had a chance to dig through all that. A lot of them are doubles, right? So you have your one that you have for the collectors, and then you have the one you read through. I don't have all the doubles, so like I have no choice but to leave them in the sleeves and whatnot. So I don't have the greatest knowledge of Moon Knight, right? And we kind of talked about this off camera, but the only experience or even knowledge that I have of Moon Knight, and it's going to sound real silly, is from the mobile game contest. What is it? Marvel Contest of Champions. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't played it, go download it. It's something pretty cool. They have a bunch of
Be
alternate
careful. It's
costumes that they
addicting.
have.
It's addicting.
It is. It is. I think, what was it? I played it like, 6-7 years ago. When I used to work at the airport, I was working like a third night shift, and in between flights, which, they don't happen every minute, there'd be like 2-3 hours of downtime where literally I can't do any work at the airport. So what do? We smoke cigarettes, we would chat it up, and then we'd play Contest of Champions. We'd play some mobile games. I'm so glad I stopped smoking cigarettes, but no judgment to anyone that does. But man, you literally have nothing to do. So I picked up smoking cigarettes. Like what a weird thing to do, right? But
No, I
that's
mean, like I
where
said,
I learned.
you learn how to do these things. It's about being with other people and being able to enjoy being with them for a couple of hours. So I totally understand.
Right. And I no longer do. But I want to say, with playing that game, you'd unlock new characters every like day, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And Moon Knight was one of those characters. And I was like, who is this guy? So I did some, not any deep diving, but I did a nice Google search and found out he's someone with like split personality. I didn't know anything about his origin. I didn't know anything about what we learned, especially in this episode alone.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this is coming as a shock to me. Last episode, it blew my mind that homie woke up in a psych ward. I'm like, what? And they were separated entities. I was like, what's going on? Is he imagining all this in his head? Like, I know he has a few interactions of like psychosis and where he kind of like drifts off into sleep, and he enables the other personality. So all that is like driving me nuts. Um, yeah, that's mostly of my knowledge of Moon Knight.
I think it was really interesting what Marvel decided to do here is one, make it known that Mark is the original personality and Steve was someone that he made up. So that in itself is different. So Marvel's choosing to go a route that even if you didn't read the comics, you still understand what's going on because they're going to spell it all out for you. This is not what happened in the comics. That's not how things are. That's not how origin story started. But also, they're leaning heavily on the acting prowess of Isaac. I mean, he is doing an amazing job. Like he is literally carrying these episodes because for a show called Moon Knight, we've only seen Moon Knight for about 2 minutes total in 5 episodes.
Damn, that's wow. You know what? Now that you mentioned that, I've rarely seen him, especially with the whole getup. And there's like 2 versions of that getup, right? There's like Mr.
Yeah, Mr. Knight and Moon
Mr.
Knight,
Knight
and
and Moon
you don't see them at all. Like it's crazy. This for a show we call this is like Boba Fett and not having Boba. Wait a minute, they didn't do that either. Huh? So maybe this is something that they're trying to do. This is reminding me of Loki, but with Loki, we understood what Marvel was doing. This, you don't know the storyline. So they're starting so many things. And Oscar Isaac is not here, not even promised to come and do a season 2. How do they wrap up all these things? How do they wrap up, Jake Lockley's storyline? Because you saw the other sarcophagus sitting there. So, but that's never, if they're being judged, how come that's not gone? I mean, that's not even being added to. What do you do with the fact that Mark is now on into the reeds, and Steven is in the sand, frozen.
Yeah.
So I mean, does that mean that the only way for them to be balanced is to lose Steven? Is that what that is, or does Mark is he able to save him, or is he able to carry him with him? Does he choose to go back? I mean, there are just so many things that was left unanswered.
True.
Does he go back to Kanshu? Did they make a bargain?
Without dipping into too much into your knowledge, from the way you see the show going, if you can sense any kind of foreshadowing, where do you think the show might end up taking? What direction do you think they'll take?
I think he has to go. He has to go back to Kanshu.
Get him?
And I think the reason is because he doesn't want Kanshu to get out and to take his wife, basically. I think because of his love for her, that's what comes out to. I think Layla is just the biggest thing. Though he's pushing her away, he loves her so much that his love for her is going to cause him to go back and to save her life, and also in respect for Steve. And possibly what they're going to do is Steven might go to the side, go to the wayside, and Mark seems like he's totally better and he's a better Moon Knight and less broken. And then season 2, we find out we got to do this all over again with Jake Lockley.
Damn.
The only problem is Oscar Isaac is not guaranteed to be there.
Is that's news? Confirmed news that he's not confirmed yet for season 2?
He only signed on for 1 season. He does not have to come back for the second season or do any other Moon Knight stuff. It kind of makes sense because Oscar Isaac is becoming a big time actor now, and you see his acting prowess. So I honestly understand why he didn't want to be into those the golden handcuffs as they call
them. Right. Damn. I really hope he comes back for season 2. I know he has so much to offer, so many roles that he could play. Right. I've only seen him, and I'm not sure if he's in other roles, and shame on me for not knowing, but I've only seen him in Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah. It's one more thing to think about him.
So, and they're both Disney. What is it, right? Star Wars, yep. Disney, and Marvel's Disney.
I mean, think about too, remember?
That's right. I don't know. So with that being said, I guess I want to ask you, what are what are your biggest takeaways from the series, and especially from episode 5, that you really, really like? You mentioned the acting by, damn, what the fuck is his name? It's so bad. The guy that plays Moon
Oscar
Knight.
Isaac. Oscar Isaac
Yeah,
is
Oscar Isaac.
his acting was so good.
My biggest takeaways and my biggest likes from episode 5 of Moon Knight are exactly what Brian was saying. The acting by Isaac, what's his name? By Isaac, right? He is killing it. The fact that he can do a British accent, being a guy from, I think he's from New York, blows my mind. It's usually the other way around, where you get a lot of actors from England, right? That they'll come to the US and do all these amazing roles acting. How he's so good at his acting. Him being a person, I think he's from New York, if I'm not mistaken, and kind of doing the opposite. Or he's not from New York, but he's like a New York person character in the series, acting like someone who's from England doing the British accent, which is, in my opinion, super hard to do. I can't do it, and I won't try. But the fact that he can play these roles and play them to where I don't sense any mess ups. I'm not from overseas, so I can't tell the errors that he does, if any, doing the accent. But he's killing it for me. Now, go back to what you were saying, him killing the role. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I mean, no, this episode is one of my favorite episodes. It's amazing the amount of stuff that he's done and how good and how strong he actually is in acting. He carries it with his acting prowess, and that's what you see more than anything. Because of his acting, though, I worry about the series as a whole, because it won't be able to do anything without him. He's so good. So if
True.
they decide to go with a different avatar, I just don't think it will work. You know, I mean, this is the scene when he's, at his mother's funeral. He's on the ground crying, and you see the pain in his eyes, and then he turns back into Steven because it's too much for him to bear. The acting there is just amazing. It's special, and that was just a wonderful display of his acting prowess. But what do you do with this story? I feel like this story should have gone at least 9 episodes if they're going to go this route. Because there's so much. Layla is still out there. We haven't seen her in an episode. As I explained before about Moon Knight, you haven't seen Moon Knight run a couple of episodes and for a couple of minutes. I mean, and even if the next episode is all Moon Knight, there's too many stories that need to be wrapped up. There's too much that has to be wrapped up, and it's too much to do. I don't know what they're going to be able to do to in order to fix it.
So to kind of piggyback on what you said, I shed tears in this episode, and like I'm a pretty emotional guy, but I shed tears. I was crying, not crying, but I was really, really sad. I felt for Mark, and then when Steven's character, he really does seem like two damn characters. Like if I didn't know any better, this is like kind of like a callback to Parent Trap, when I didn't know that Lindsay Lohan was one person playing them two roles. I felt like that. I'm like, as a kid, I'm like, oh no, it's two girls, right? No, it's one person, and he's killing it. The amount of emotion that is pulled from his soul is just over 9,000. That's right. That's what I got to say about that. I don't know if the series carries on without him. I don't think it will. I think fans, it's getting a lot of new fans. Me being one of them, right? I'm a new fan of Moon Knight, and so if I don't see Oscar Isaac, for a second season, I probably will stop watching it. Like if it was up to me, at least. Like I definitely want to keep watching it for for the Kings and giving you our take on what's to come next. I do want to appear on more episodes of the Wednesday show, but like if he's out,
quality wouldn't be there without him. He is bringing a quality that you can't match with other people, and that's important to know and to recognize. I agree 100% with you. But with that said, that's what my worry is. And now coming into episode 6, how will they be able to put a big bow on all of this? His relationship with Layla, his relationship with Steven, his with the Jake Lockley, his relationship with Kanshu. You know, not even talking about Harold. I mean, that is just it's so much to do. The
Yeah.
other
And
gods, the fact that they have on the wall 14 other gods that are tied to that temple, to that pyramid. There's only 5 gods that are actually active, and they're not active either. They haven't talked about the ancestral plane. It's just so many things that they opened up, and that's why I think that they did a great job in directing, at least not trying to bring them too close to the other shows and other Disney Plus things. Because if they're not going to answer those questions, leave it alone. Leave it as its own series. So I'm okay with that.
Brian, back.
Henry, yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. I'm scared
So
to
here's my
look at the
question.
comments. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is to you: how would you rank it?
Happy Wednesday. Your question is how would I rate it?
Yeah, how would you rate this episode?
This episode or this episode?
Yeah.
I think it's a definite watch now. It engaged me the most emotionally. It even drew, and I don't mean to get like sentimental, but it even drew some past traumas from my life and my experiences with my own mom, which are not the greatest. And so the fact that it drew so much from me watching it, and me like, just clawing at the damn TV screen, wanting more. And then you now especially reminding us that there's one episode left. I'm giving this a watch now, like watch yesterday even. Like it's so damn good that I want to go back in time and watch it at an earlier date. The acting is great. You've touched on that many times. Story is killing it. There's so many loose ends that I the fact that I want to know more makes it a good episode as well as series. And for that, I'm just going to leave it at that. Is definitely a watch now. How do you rate this episode as well as the series going forward?
So this episode is probably my favorite episode, even though it had no action, no Moon Knight or anything like that, because
Crazy.
it took a real issue, having the multiple personalities, and put it in a real world context. He gave you a real life problem that someone would have, and you saw the emotional problems that a mother could cause, or the father not being able to fix it, because you can't fix a person. How that all can cause problems in adulthood, and it was portrayed well, and it gave you so many different levels, and gave you a lot of what the f moments, because you're still trying to figure out how this stuff is happening, and is it all caught in his mind or not. It's so good. It's such a good quality show, good quality episode. I mean, it has to be a super now. Like, this is one of those things you should stop what you're doing and watch it right now. It's that good. As far as this series goes, I have my concerns.
Mm.
There's, as I said, there's not much action. There are a lot of things that you have to really tie up, and that's going to be hard. I can enjoy watching something and still say they did a bad job, because if you saw me rate Boba Fett, Book of Boba, I thought was entertaining. I enjoyed every episode, but I thought as a whole they did a terrible job, because there wasn't really Boba Fett. It was Mandalorian 3.
Well said.
So I can see it both ways. I mean, as far as Oscar Isaac, I can say he's a great actor. I enjoy watching all these episodes. But as far as Moon Knight, who was supposed to be Marvel's Batman, the sociopath that's going around beating everybody up and taking kicking butt and taking names and all that stuff, and not showing that, I think it's a miss sometimes. So unless they really wrap all this stuff up, this series is really teetering for me. So I would love to see. I can't wait to see what episode 6 has to hold. But episode 5 was unbelievable.
Damn.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. We gotta see.
So you kind of put into perspective for me, the fact that we have so many loose ends, and if they don't tie these ends up, it's going to be hard to do. You mentioned in the last episode that you're kind of hoping that the last episode, I'm sorry, you mentioned in the previous episode, you're hoping that it's a longer episode. You get like maybe instead of, what is it? I don't even know how long these episodes are. I
like
just get lost in the show.
Minutes, 52 minutes, you know, a regular.
I'm hoping it's like an hour and 30 minutes.
I agree. That would be awesome. If you could do that, then you can start seeing some of the things, you know, answered. Or even telling us, we're not going to answer this right now. We're going to answer this in future episodes. Start giving us some information. Let us know what's going on. I think that would give us a much higher quality
Sure.
ending, you know. So I 100% agree.
You said that in the last episode, and I was like, man, I really hope they make more show for the final episode. So Layla, I haven't even talked too much about Layla.
Exactly.
Her being the love interest, her being the wife, you know, she got married, very committed, right? Her finding out from the previous episode that her dad was killed by the mercenary team that Mark was. Because for all we know, maybe she's broken down as a person. What if we get a whole, like a whole pattern where now that she's found out this trauma, right? She's already been through a traumatic experience losing her father. But what if now knowing that the person that she loved, damn, it's almost like, wow, the person that she loved killed another person she loved. Is she going to turn into Mark's mother and get abusive with him? Like, is that going to be a part 2 to that?
That's interesting.
Because it's happening all over again.
Yeah. Well, see, I would think it's more possible that she can't handle the trauma and her personality breaks.
Oh, damn.
Because Kanshu said she's the perfect avatar.
Mm-hmm.
So what if her personality breaks and then all the things we know about Moon Knight, since it wasn't from Mark Spector and Steven, maybe it's all going to be from Layla, and they get a female perspective of Moon Knight for the MCU, and she's someone who stands on for a long time.
I have a theory. I kind of asked you what might happen next going forward. In the previous episode, we got Kanshu that sacrificed himself to be put in a little figure, right? And he mentioned to Steven, he's like, hey, tell Mark, because I'm giving you this gift, right? Of letting you know how the constellations look like that night when X, Y, and Z happened. I forgot exactly what happened. But pretty much he gave him the gift of knowing where to find this pyramid, right? He sacrificed himself, but he said, and he really emphasized, and I really took that away from that episode. He's like, have Mark come save me, have him summon me again or whatever. So I think for the next episode, I think we're going to get Kanshu back. Don't know how. Don't know how they're going to pull that out of their ass. But I think Mark's going to find a way, and it seems like only he has that ability. He's going to find a way to summon Kanshu. And Kanshu, I don't know what the extent of his abilities are, because we haven't seen him so much. But maybe, just maybe even tied into the whole MCU universe, maybe they set the timeline back, right? To where before Mark gets shot, and Mark will still know everything that happened somehow, which is a crazy theory, by the way. I know how this sounds, but maybe they get Kanshu back. Maybe he, as a god, has the ability to, you know, set the timeline back and then, you know, have a last duel with Moon Knight against Harrow. That's the only way I see this coming, because the whole end game that's been, you know, that's been kind of teased throughout this whole time is Harrow and Moon Knight are at a race to get to this pyramid so that Harrow can free, I forgot the damn god's name, Annette, something like that. Anuet. I'm saying it wrong. I know I am. He wants to free her, and I think it's a her. They're a her, and have them have Judgment Day happen to where she kills a bunch of people before they even commit the crimes that they're going to commit, possibly. I think Kanshu comes back, sets the timeline back, defeats Harrow, and then hopefully they go forward with their adventures as Moon Knights, as the whole trio. And now you mentioning about the third personality, quadruple team. That's the way I see this going. And I know it sounds nuts. That's talking really out of ignorance because I don't know too much about Moon Knight. But that's the only thing I can take away from the previous episodes and trying to piece this all together to tie these loose ends. That's the only way I see it. Yeah.
I think Emmett's going to be huge in the last episode. Kanshu is going to be released. Mark makes Kanshu promise to never touch Layla. I will be your avatar for as long as you want, as long as you never touch Layla. And then they do beat Emmett, and then he sacrifices himself somehow to not let Kanshu be able to get out, and he returns to the, I can't remember what it's called, with the reeds, whatever.
Field of Reeds.
The Field of Reeds. And then he returns there with the help of the other gods, and then Kanshu is left without the avatar. So now Amit is gone and Kanshu is gone, and then they can do anything with the character from there. So I can see that happening, and they're just leaving everything very open ended, and we'll see what happens.
I mean, is there a deadline for Oscar Isaac to reprise this role?
He can decide on each one. So if he decides he wants to do season 2, he can do season 2. But like he's not strapped in. He's not tied to it. He doesn't have to. As I said, he was in a Fox series. He's already been. He's in Dune. You remember he was in
he is in Dune.
Damn. He was in Star Wars. He's been in and out. He's never been, the golden handcuffs never been on him. So he might be one of those guys that just doesn't want that.
Don't do us like that, Sir Isaac Newton. I mean, Isaac Newton. Sir Isaac. Oscar Isaac. Don't do that, bro. Man, like, I never even liked Moon Knight. Not that I didn't like him, but I never had this, I wouldn't call it passion, but this admiration for Moon Knight, and now I have it. So it's just, man, I'm split. No pun intended with this whole series, but I'm split. I'm hoping. Fingers crossed.
It's going to be really interesting to see what level they go with it. Yeah. And I mean, I have no answer. And what I can say is, we'll see.
We mentioned our likes, kind of our dislikes. We mentioned our rating. So that's pretty much about it, right? We're pretty much wrapping up